The CEO was a man who never flinched, never folded, never feared a soul. But when the elevator doors opened and he saw her, the woman he hadn't seen in 10 years, holding the hand of a little girl with eyes that mirrored his own, he dropped his coffee room froze. His assistant whispered, "Sir, are you okay?" He couldn't speak. The girl blinked at him, smiled, and that smile was his late mother's smile. This was no ordinary job interview. This was a reckoning. 1 hour earlier, Maya Williams adjusted her blazer in the mirror of the ladies' restroom on the 44th floor of Halston Global. Her palms were sweating, and not just because this was her first job interview in 3 years. No, this was his company. She hadn't seen Jackson Halston since the night she walked out of his penthouse a decade ago, pregnant and terrified. But she needed this job for her daughter, Lila. Rent was due, her last freelance gig had dried up, and Lila's medical bills weren't slowing down. The single mom life was never easy, but when your daughter has epilepsy and you've got no family, you learn to walk through fire without flinching. Lila tugged at her hand. "Mama, can I wait outside the big doors?" Maya smiled softly. "You can sit in the lounge, sweetheart. Don't wander, okay?" She kissed her daughter's forehead and walked toward the receptionist. "Hi, Maya Williams. I have a 10 a.m. interview with Mr. Halston." The receptionist checked her list and offered a professional smile. "Yes, please, take a seat. He'll be with you shortly." Maya nodded and sat. Her heart thundered with every tick of the clock. Inside the CEO's office, Jackson Halston was wrapping up a call with investors. His schedule was stacked: board meetings, contract negotiations, PR crises. But this interview caught his eye. Maya Williams. That name hadn't surfaced in his life for years, but it still echoed in his mind on long, restless nights. His assistant poked her head in. "Sir, Maya Williams is here." Jackson froze mid-sentence. "Should I cancel?" He shook his head. "Number, send her in." He stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the skyline of Chicago like it held all his regrets. When he heard the elevator ding outside, something in him shifted. But what walked in was not just Maya. It was Maya, holding the hand of a child, a girl maybe 8 or 9 years old. Long curly hair, bright eyes, his eyes. The moment he locked eyes with Maya, she looked older, stronger. Her face was unreadable, but it was the girl who undid him. Her expression lit up when she saw him. She tilted her head. "Hi," she said sweetly. Jackson dropped his coffee cup. It shattered across the tile floor. Silence. His assistant ran in. "Sir, are you—" "Leave," he barked, voice hoarse. Everyone else filed out. Just Maya, Jackson, and the child remained. He could barely breathe. "Maya, who is this?" Maya didn't blink. "Her name is Lila." He stepped forward. "Is she—" "I didn't come here for your money," Maya snapped. "I came for a job. What you and I had, it ended. But Lila needed to be here with me today." Jackson couldn't look away from the girl. She was playing with the edge of his desk now, completely unaware of the storm she had walked into.
The silence in the room was suffocating. Jackson stared at the little girl with the quiet awe of a man who just discovered the world wasn't as he thought it was. Lila twirled a small keychain in her hand, one that read, "Best Dad Ever." She'd picked it up from a dollar bin at Walgreens that morning, saying she wanted to give it to someone special. Maya hadn't thought much of it at the time. Now it felt like a cruel cosmic joke. "Lila," Maya said gently, kneeling beside her. "Why don't you go sit in the lounge for a minute, sweetheart? Mommy needs to talk to Mr. Halston alone." Lila looked confused. "Okay, are you mad?" Maya smiled and kissed her on the forehead. "Never. Go on now." Once the door closed behind the girl, Maya stood straight, facing Jackson with every ounce of strength she had left. "So," he said, voice low, "you had my child and didn't tell me." Maya's jaw tightened. "It's not that simple." "Try me." Maya folded her arms. "When I found out I was pregnant, you were flying around the world, partying with investors and models. I was nobody, a summer intern. You would have called it a trap. I've seen what happens to women who speak up in your world." Stepped closer, anger simmering just under the surface. You think I wouldn't have taken responsibility? I think you would have denied it, paid me to disappear, and moved on like nothing happened. Jackson turned his back, running a hand through his hair. You don't know what I would have done. No, I don't, she said, because you weren't there. Flashback. 10 years ago. Summer 2015. Maya had just landed an internship at Halston Global, bright-eyed, top of her class, and dirt poor. She kept to herself, didn't wear designer clothes like the others, and often skipped lunch just to save a few dollars. Then one night, during a charity gala, Jackson found her crying on the rooftop after her roommate stole her rent money. They talked for hours under the stars. He wasn't the billionaire then, just a man tired of shallow people and golden cages. For 3 months, they had a secret romance. Late-night dinners, whispered laughter, long weekends upstate. But then the internship ended, and so did everything. Jackson stopped replying. She found out she was pregnant 3 weeks later. No way to reach him. No one believed her. So she left quietly and rebuilt her life from nothing. Back in the present. I didn't want your help, Maya said. But now I need a job, and your company had the best opening I could find. That's all this is. Business Jackson turned, face unreadable. Lila? Does she know who I am? She knows I was in love once. She doesn't know your name. She doesn't need your guilt or your pity. He slammed his fist lightly against his desk. This isn't pity, Maya. That little girl is mine. She deserves the truth. You want to be a father now? Her voice cracked. After 9 years of silence? I didn't choose silence. You made that decision for both of us. The air was thick with pain and pride. Suddenly, there was a soft knock. Lila peeked her head in. Mama, I heard yelling. Crouched to her level, his voice softer than Maya had ever heard. Hey there. You like chocolate chip cookies? Lila nodded. They're my favorite, smiled. Mine too. Want to check if the kitchen on this floor has some? She giggled. Okay, he looked up at Maya. I'm not trying to take her from you, but I want to know her. Maya stared long and hard into his eyes. She saw something there she hadn't expected. Sincerity, regret, maybe even love. Cookies. 10 minutes, she said. Then we talk. Minutes later, was happily eating cookies in the executive lounge with Jackson's assistant watching over her. Maya and Jackson sat alone in the office, a chasm of broken trust between them. Jackson spoke first. Look, I messed up back then. I didn't chase you. I assumed you'd moved on. But that girl out there, she's amazing. And she's mine. I know it. I feel it. Maya exhaled. She's been through a lot. Seizures, night terrors, doctors who told me she might never go to public school. I gave up everything to fight for her. I don't regret it. But I won't let you swoop in now and act like you can fix this. I don't want to fix anything, he said. I want to build something. With both of you, even if it takes years. She laughed bitterly. You don't get years. You get interviews and board meetings and Forbes covers. I can change that. People like you don't change. He leaned in. Try me. Later. That day Maya didn't get the job, not because she wasn't qualified, but because Jackson said, I want you to work directly under me. Personal development director, 6-figure salary, flexible hours, full health benefits, for you and Lila, no tricks, no fine print. She almost declined, but Lila, seeing her laugh for the first time in weeks, whispered, I like him, Mama. Against every instinct to run, Maya said yes. For now.
2 weeks later, the transformation inside Halston Global was subtle, but undeniable. The cold marble hallways that once echoed with tension now carried the soft laughter of a child. Executives who had once tiptoed past the CEO's office now paused to smile at the little girl coloring quietly in the lounge. And Jackson Halston, Chicago's most untouchable billionaire, was different. He showed up early. He left on time. And for the first time in his life, he listened more than he spoke. Maya, now seated just one office away from his, kept her guard up. She hadn't forgiven him, not entirely. But every time she watched him gently braid Lila's hair during a coffee break or sit cross-legged on the floor during her story times, her heart cracked a little more. But life had a way of testing even the most fragile new beginnings. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. Maya was in a marketing meeting when her phone buzzed. The screen flashed. Emergency contact, CPS Elementary. She answered immediately, heart in her throat. Ms. Williams? Lila had a seizure during art class. We've called an ambulance. She's en route to St. Luke's. Maya didn't wait. She grabbed her coat, ran down the hall, and nearly slammed into Jackson coming out of his office. What happened? He asked, grabbing her arm. Lila, seizure. They're taking her to St. Luke's. He didn't hesitate. My car's already downstairs. Let's go. At the hospital, machines beeped. Sterile lights buzzed overhead. Lila lay small and fragile in a sea of wires and tubes. Maya sat beside her, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the IV line. Jackson stood frozen at the door, his suit soaked from rain. He had built empires, crushed rivals, closed billion-dollar deals. But nothing had prepared him for the helplessness of watching his daughter fight for breath. The doctor entered. She'll be okay. The seizure was stronger than usual, but the meds are helping. She's stable. Maya exhaled for the first time in an hour. Tears slipped down her cheek, silent and bitter. Jackson sat beside her, speechless. Finally, she whispered, "This is why I didn't tell you. This pain. It's been my world for 9 years." He didn't argue. He just reached over and took her hand. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. Later that night, Lila was asleep, her hand curled around the keychain she never left home without. Best dad ever. Maya stood by the hospital window, arms crossed. Jackson joined her quietly. I'll pay for the best neurologist in the country, he said. Whatever she needs, treatment, care, tutors, therapy, it's done. She turned to him, eyes still swollen from crying. You think money fixes everything? No, he said softly, but it can buy us time. Time to make this right. Maya stared at him, searching for any hint of manipulation, pride, or pity. She found none. You know, she said, there were nights I held her through seizures, so violent I thought she wouldn't make it. And I'd pray that if God ever gave me a sign to keep going, it would be you never coming back. Jackson looked down. But now, she whispered, watching you hold her hand. Maybe I was wrong. The next morning, the hospital room was quiet. Lila blinked open her eyes, smiling faintly at the sight of Jackson asleep in the armchair beside her, holding a teddy bear. Mommy! Maya leaned in, brushing hair from her daughter's forehead. Hey, baby, you're okay. Lila looked at Jackson. Was he here the whole time? Maya nodded. Is he my daddy? Maya froze, then slowly nodded again. Lila smiled sleepily. I kinda knew. Maya's heart broke and healed all at once. 1 month later, Jackson stood before a crowded press room announcing a new Halston Global initiative, Project Lila, a $30 million donation to fund childhood epilepsy research, support services for single mothers, and scholarships for children with chronic health conditions. But behind the press photos and headlines, something deeper was unfolding. Jackson, once a lone wolf, was now a father. He learned to pack lunches, read bedtime stories, and sit through animated movies without checking his phone. Maya, still cautious, began to trust him. In inches, not miles. But it was something, and Lila, she blossomed. She drew family portraits with all 3 of them. She called him Dad by accident once, and didn't take it back. And every night before bed she whispered, Thank you, God, for bringing him back. 3 months later, a bench in Lincoln Park, Jackson and Maya sat watching Lila feed ducks near the pond. She's changed me, he said, but you saved me. Maya smiled. You're getting there. He looked at her, heart open for the first time in years. I know I was the last man you thought you could trust, but if you let me in, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You're late, she whispered. He smiled. But I showed up.